Driveline Baseball R&D Podcast, episode 45. This is Alex Caravan, swag manager of data science, drinking a very strong coffee. Can't see what's in it, so let your imagination run wild. Not
Kyle
live.
Lindley.
Go ahead.
Kyle Lindley, sports engineer, Driveline Baseball, drinking black coffee from Brew in Loomis, California, home for the holidays.
And I'm Anthony Brady, sports scientist, biomechanist, primary host of the Driveline Research and Drinks podcast. Coming to you live today at 7:25 a.m. So I'm drinking some coffee as well. Premium Kroger brand K-Cup. So it's not bad.
Brady, want to introduce our guest?
Oh, yeah. And so today, again, as Caravan briefly mentioned, we are not live, pre-recording this with the holidays coming up. We have a guest, Mr. Ronald Two Shoes Hill, Rob Hill.
That is my name for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, hello, Rob Hill, pitching coordinator for the Los Angeles Dodgers and pitching guy with Driveline still. And I'm currently drinking a birthday cake bash bang.
Oh, nice.
That's very nice.
Nice. A little 7 a.m. bang. I like that.
Yes, it's definitely 7 a.m.
Rob, I think your title is technical in-gym coordinator of pitching culture and development, dude. Is that right?
No, I think you missed one part of it. I believe it's Supreme Chancellor, and then all that stuff after that.
Oh, I thought there was a czar. I thought there was some kind of...
Oh, no. That's I'm actually vice czar to the Supreme Chancellor.
Or maybe like formerly czar.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
In the third.
There was a coup. People don't know this, but there was a coup at Driveline at one point. The whole system got overthrown. Rob vanquished everyone, and now you have that title. So.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that on air. I didn't know we were gonna do that.
Yeah,
we don't have to get into the coup.
We don't have to get into it, but I think the people should know.
They should know that it did happen, and I came out victorious. Hence my Supreme Chancellor title.
Well, yeah.
Rob, do you kind of want to start just going into giving a quick background deep dive on how you got started with Driveline and just rising up to the getting synced up with being the Dodgers pitching coordinator?
Sure, dude. Yeah. So yeah, like geez, like do you want like the whole deep
I was gonna
dive?
say that's like okay, give us your life story, Rob.
Yeah.
I want 4 minutes and 20 seconds of deep dive.
Summarize the last 6 years in
Let me pull up the timer.
4 minutes.
All right.
So I'm interested to know, let's go from when you came out of the womb to where you are today. Like, how did you get there?
All right. Yeah, we can go. Okay. 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay.
Starting. All right. So initially was introduced to Driveline back in 2014 after having a really bad freshman year of college at Skagit Valley College, go Cards. Mm-hmm. I was basically about to quit baseball. Honestly, it had been a really bad experience, just personally and on the field. So I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Then my dad was like, hey, this guy at work keeps telling me we got to go try this place, Driveline. This guy, Kyle, apparently is going to change the game or whatever. And this is late 2013 into 2014. My dad's hounding me about this through that whole time. So finally, I come back from summer ball, and then my dad's like, all right, can we go do this? And I was like, dude, I don't know, whatever. And then I'm finally just okay.
Where'd you play summer ball at that year?
I played in Kansas.
I was going to say, one of my teammates from UPS.
Oh, yeah.
JB Erie.
Yeah. JB Erie. And, or 3 of your teammates. I can't remember their names right now. Sorry, guys. So finish up that and then go to Driveline. At the time, it was literally just Mike and Kyle were the only 2 employees. And they took me through the whole onboard, showed me, I vividly remember Kyle walking around with a 25-pound plate, doing waiter walks. Mike showed me how to do wrist weights, all that. Went in there with my dad and Kyle and Mike, did all the drills, and like threw a bullpen. I was throwing like 83 or something. Fast forward a little bit of time, like end up coming out of doing that, throwing like 86 to 88. And I was just like, what in the world is this? Like, this is a whole new like thing. I'd never thrown that hard before. And I was throwing like infinitely more strikes. Like I felt better than ever, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward through that a little bit. So after my sophomore year, ended up going to Westmont, rehabbing from a shoulder thing that I had, and then end up training at Driveline the whole summer of 2016. That's where I met Brady. Great times back then when I had poison oak all over my legs, which
Poison
was
oak,
terrible.
Rob.
So many people still, that's like their first memory of me.
Yep.
It's just like covered in poison oak.
People
And
forget
it's just
poison oak, Rob.
very funny. But so trained there the whole summer of 2016, go back to Westmont for my junior year, end up pitching pretty well. And then go back to the Driveline the summer of 2017, intern there. That's where I met Lindley. We had some great times there that summer. Just a great time. Interned here the whole time. And then after graduating, after my senior year, was working full time from like June of 2018 until February of last year. And that's when I went to spring training. But
well,
yeah,
this year, I guess, technically 2020
yeah,
still.
holy smokes.
Yeah.
It just feels like so long ago, dude. This year.
Yeah.
It feels so long ago, but also not so long ago somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's just like being at Driveline though too, is like 2 weeks. Like
That's
Gordo
true.
actually said this the other day, and I thought it was pretty profound. It's just like you aren't around Driveline or like super involved for like 2 weeks, and it feels like 4 months. You know,
Yeah.
like so much stuff just like happens so quickly.
Yeah.
And it's like really hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Especially like being one of like me or like Eric or Kyle, where we're just kind of like out and like doing stuff, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this whole thing is like this way now. It's super weird.
I mean, I actually felt that the last 2 days running assessments, covering for Gretchen Lee. It'd been a while since I'd done those, and just thinking back to like, God, dude, the way that we used to do this. Like, Lindy, you remember when we used to cut out the squares of like the foam double-sided sticky pads and use those?
Yeah.
Dude, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, this is so much better, like what we're doing now, compared to like showing up, cutting out like hundreds of those squares for assessments and thinking that was the most efficient way to do it. Fucking
Dude,
ridiculous.
I remember you guys doing that stuff. That was wild.
Yeah.
Now we're making it way more efficient despite like COVID restrictions, gloving up, like sanitizing everything. So,
Dude, I actually thought about it. I don't know if I've told you this. Oh, sorry. I mean, you get more time. You get more time. We had to jump in and
You
interrupt.
put on another 420 on.
Yeah, another 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Dude, I was thinking about, there was a time when we went and did some team assessments, I think around like mid-season, and then we came back for instructs. And when we used to use those like square foam pieces, when we came back in instructs, there was a guy that still had one of the double-sided like square foam pieces on his cleat, on the
Yeah,
inside
I remember
ankle
that.
of his cleat. Like
Was
when
the
he
marker still on it too?
No, the marker wasn't still on it. It was just the piece. It was like the stuff you put on the back of like posters or frames to hang on your wall, you know? And he had a square piece still on his cleat on like the inside ankle. And I was like, he came over and I was like, Joe, this guy still has the stuff on his cleats. It's been like 2 months. It's fucking crazy, dude.
But Rob, so being there, like one of the very first OGs to obviously still being involved at Driveline and being with us all the way up, to almost pre-COVID, like how do you see it through your eyes, the kind of us expanding, the change in research, the change in directives, opportunities that come up, what we do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis? How's that been, like seeing that over the last couple of years?
Dude, I was literally thinking about that on the way in today. It's like crazy. How I thought about it was like from 2014 when I first came in to like 2016, maybe mid 2017, like it was basically the same place. You know what I mean? Like nothing had really like drastically changed. Like we'd added a few more people,
Yeah, then your boy came on.
Yeah, let's go. Things were getting like a little bit more streamlined. Like we were kind of understanding like track, because that was during that whole transition, like late like 2016. And so it was just speed of business, honestly. It was just significantly slower. And it was like we were like kind of spreading, like things were whatever, but it's just been like so fast how much things have developed from even like the time when I first got here back after graduating until like now. It's like, I mean, dude, like the fall of 2018, like we were barely using motion capture reports, like barely at all. Like it was very ad hoc. It was very like, so and so is working with Sam and he like needs like a report or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember
that's when we did. That's when we first did conditional text notes. I think it was like summer or fall of 2018.
Yeah.
Because Summer, Joe, and I were still handwriting all of them,
which is crazy. Which is insane. Yeah, so like stuff like that is just it's like insane.
Or even Matt Daniels was handwriting them. Sam was writing them. It was like that's how we did everything.
I mean, I just like also vividly remember just like doing infinite day 5 meetings or whatever, or day 3 meetings I think they were back then with like Rogers, and we would literally just watch videos of guys like doing plows and be like, I think we need to like do this drill, or I think like we need to make this sort of adjustment. And so like that whole thing has just opened up a whole nother realm for both like jobs here and then like understanding like things in a more wide scale, and being able to like take that out and being like, okay, here's what we see over like thousands of reps like actually happening, and like, okay, this is how we can like make it work with like these guys and stuff like that. So yeah.
And then to kind of round out my initial question, that was way too broad. We've shifted to a 3-part question. What was it like? How did you first start working with Dodgers players like Kershaw, Wood, and Jansen, and how did that accelerate into your current position of the Dodgers?
For sure. So I initially started working with Alex. He was the first guy that I had contact with, and he was a free agent at the time. Trevor had actually recommended that Alex come up and find someone here to like train with. And I guess Trevor recommended that it be me. So that was like pretty cool to get that from him. So just like started working with Alex. Things were going really well. He was like up to 90, 91 and like off-season bullpens, which he was like, I've never thrown harder than 86 before. And I was just like, let's go, dude. And
we during the off-season?
Yeah, sorry. And he had just targeted a few things that like could help him out. And like I was able to talk to him about like his arsenal and like things like that he had never really been exposed to before. So I think he kind of was telling some of the players like, hey, like you guys should come out to Driveline, or maybe talking to some of the front office guys. I'm not super sure. But then next thing I know, I'm working on the cert at this time, if you guys remember that whole thing.
I do remember that.
But I just get a Slack from Bill, and it's like, hey, make sure you're like free on Thursday. And I was like, oh, dude, I got to like do, this lesson and like this and this. And he's like, oh, like Clayton Kershaw's coming into the gym and like you're going to run like his pitch design or whatever. And I was like, all right, yep, I'm free. I don't have anything on Thursday. So then Kersh came in. We did mocap, pitch design, all that. I got to meet Brandon McDaniel and Brandon Gomes, who Brandon McDaniel's the one of the strength people with the major league team, and then Brandon Gomes is the assistant general manager. Kind of just got to talking to them. Brady, you were there for that.
Yeah. Dude, he rolled in with Gunner Optics, and I was like, this guy gets it.
B-Mac is savage. He's the man.
I was like, he just walked in with fucking gamer blue light glasses right off the bat.
Dude, he has like the dark ones.
Yeah,
too. He had super amber ones.
Yeah,
and I was like,
he was just wearing them normally. I was like, this guy gets it. This is sick.
Yeah, so got to talking to those guys a little bit, and then Kersh had a really good experience. He spoke really highly. Those guys spoke really highly of you, Brady, and Bill, and myself. And then they were like, oh, we're going to bring Kenley. And then so same sort of thing. You were there for that too, I'm pretty sure. And then just like talking with BMAC a little bit, we like saw a lot of things like similarly. And I think he liked the way that I interacted with the guys and some of the ways that I was able to communicate things and information that maybe they had seen before, but hadn't ever been like in a way that had gotten through to them completely. And so I think that they just liked the way that I kind of did that. And so things got to moving around a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that was a really cool moment for like a lot of reasons. Because I think when I got the message from Bill too, I was actually on the road or something. I think we were gone, and we had to
I think we were about to leave, weren't we?
Yeah, we had to like fly back in or something, or maybe I like hot routed a flight.
It was October 6th was the day he sent me the message. I know that.
Yeah. So yeah, we came in, and I just remember thinking like, I honestly remember going into it and having a kind of like hesitant attitude of almost like a never meet your heroes kind of moment. Like I didn't want to have a bad one. But Kershaw was great. I was like amazed, like I still think it was one of the best like biomechanics meetings or conversations I've had in regards to it. Just like a player that really does care and is like really interested in what's going on, and just like very intuitive, picked it up quickly. It was really cool experience. And Jansen as well.
Yeah, I still have that voice memo. I voice recorded your entire thing. I don't know if you even knew that actually.
Oh wow.
But I voice recorded that whole meeting with Kershaw to send to BMAC and those guys so they would like have it on file or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll still go back and listen to it and just be like, dude, I will never be on this level. I need to get better. Like,
yeah, no, I think that was awesome. That was a really cool experience.
Yeah, that's fun. But yeah, so that's kind of how things got started, Kara.
After those guys came up and visited, did you, I guess you started after that happened, but do you perceive that there was like a change in perspective toward what we do and using things like motion capture to help with mechanics and everything? Do you think there was a shift of like attitude towards that stuff once people found out that Kershaw came up here in Jansen and it was just like more popularized among the big leaguers?
Yeah, I think and that's always something I think Driveline's going to be fighting against, right? Is like the idea of the running gun or whatever. Like, oh, Driveline just cares about weighted balls. Like Driveline just does this. Yeah. And I think it definitely helped that those guys came up. And honestly, like I know that Woody had talked to Kershaw, and I think that helped a lot of just like bringing his guard down to being like, yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but like they will just talk to you. They won't talk at you, and it won't be like super overwhelming and all this. It's like it'll just make sense. And like it's actually actionable things that can like help make you better. So that definitely helped reduce the stigma for sure. Like I get questions and stuff, but also like it definitely helps when a guy like Clayton or Alex or like these established big leaguers kind of like has your back or can like or they just like not even necessarily have your back, but if someone says, hey, what do you got on like this guy, whatever, and they're just like, oh, like he did well with me, like that's a big vote of confidence for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was gonna say one of the things that only gonna like suck up to you so much, but I was gonna like clearly like kind of you went you went from not zero because you obviously weren't at zero, but whatever X to 100 really fast with the Dodgers because within like a couple weeks you're gone and there's like Sports Illustrated articles coming out. Oral the Bulldog was like retweeting pictures with you and everything. and there's videos on Twitter of you behind David Price as he's like walking to a bullpen. I think you probably told them like, hey bro, COVID season, sit out. I heard a rumor about that.
No. You got to check your source on that.
Yeah. Teaching Gratterall like pivot picks, like all this stuff. You were like, all of a sudden, like once you were with the Dodgers, you're like all over, seemed like rave reviews. You kicked it off with the players really, really well. And I always thought like I don't know if I thought that was going to be the case going in, but once it happened, to me, it felt like obvious in hindsight. Because you've always been a guy that like, whether or not you're like super deep in the weeds on every single like new piece of research, you're like always going to be really, really good at distilling that information to players. And I think like you're like we always talk about, okay, like you got to have people that can like communicate to the players. It's only the info is only as valuable as what the players perceive it or the coaches or whatever. But like you're like the poster boy, I think, for that. Like I could see you being thrown in any situation and like with whatever either limited resources or all the resources in the world, which I assume the Dodgers have, being able to like distill that and being able to communicate it and like really driving home the point that like forget about like not just the tech, but like you're the guy that can actually explain that tech and like bring that understanding to the players.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Jeez, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of almost like I felt it during the Kershaw thing and the Jansen too, but I mean, I've had those kind of like moments at ABCA where you see that the person that you're working with realizes that like Driveline isn't just weighted balls and isn't just running guns. Like literally the only purpose or objective that we're trying to do is just like make you better. And like people realize that at some point after like talking with us or working with us, they realize that like Driveline is agnostic to the running gun or the weighted ball. Like literally our only priority is improving like you as a player. And those are just tools. And they're just like a one of the many tools kind of a thing. Like I remember, conversations with people at ABCA being like, afterwards some guy saying like, man, you guys should like really say or talk more stuff about this because like all the time if I hear Driveline, I just think like weighted balls and like just a 10-minute conversation with you has shown me that like that's like 1% of it all. And that's really what it is. Like, we're just, trying to make people better. Weighted balls happen to like work, but a lot of other things work too, and we use those to our advantage, kind of a thing.
For sure. No, yeah, I would 100% agree there. It's like I've had those exact conversations where guys are like, oh, so you do the pull downs and stuff, and I'm just like, well, like, I mean, if I were to show you like a bunch of the guys who like come to Driveline's programs, like a lot of them don't have pull downs.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of them have like these specific things, and like I think just spending more time with staff members and with the guys, like they started to kind of see that more. That almost that is a really good way of putting it. They're like, we're agnostic to the tool. It just needs to work. Like it just needs to be good, and like it needs to like help make guys better. And that's good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember like college teammates, they'd be like, hey, I want to do Driveline. And it's like, okay, well, what do you mean? Like, I just want like the weighted balls. Like, how do I do it? I was like, no. You want to do weighted balls. Like doing Driveline and doing weighted balls are not the same thing. Like it's like, as a whole, like if you're talking about actually doing Driveline, we're going to get into everything. If you want to just throw weighted balls, like I can show you that, but that's not doing Driveline.
Yeah.
As a discrete point of how not often we do pull downs, I know Lindley will sympathize with this one. I did like years ago when I first started at Driveline, I thought one of the cool studies would be to study like who's better at pulling down underload balls versus overload balls. And the study premise was people come in, get mocapped, then go on a pull down program, and then I compare like their mocap metrics and then compare that to like the gap between the underload and 5 ounce and the 5 ounce and the overload. And we were shooting for like, a little bit over 30 players because we figured some people would drop out. And dude, it took so long. Part of it was because we kept switching in like mocap interns and people like weren't collecting data all the time. But it took over a year to get like 30 people that went through a solid pull down program and had signed the consent forms and had gone through mocap and all that stuff. So
we didn't even get to it. That's a 29, I think.
Yeah. It just took forever.
Yeah.
Last specific Dodger question for me, at least, or like for Hand John at least. I was gonna ask, is there one pitcher you specifically like that stands out in your mind that you worked the most with, Hand John, or was it kind of like an array of pitchers?
I mean, in terms of like sheer time working with them, I would have to say Alex Wood, just because like, we've had like a relationship going on for the past year. Like he like sent me stuff this morning. Like it's just kind of definitely him. But I worked with the guys every day at the alternate site for I think 81 days straight. We were at USC, and it was just like the same dudes every single day, basically, unless there was like somebody sent down or whatever. So like those dudes at the alternate side, like Josiah Gray was one we worked on his stuff a lot over the summer. Andre Jackson, Ryan Pepio, Spores, Mitch White, probably a bunch of guys you guys don't know, but those are just like a bunch of our minor league pitchers. And then one of the really cool things about being out there on the alternate side too is kind of a shifting gears, but was being able to get like kind of first touches and like first looks with the newly drafted guys, because we sent like our newly drafted guys there. And so like Bobby Miller, Clayton Beater, Landon Knack, those three pitchers, obviously there were a couple position players, but whatever. But getting to know them and kind of like helping them get their feet wet in the organization and face some really good competition was super cool. And I think it was really fun to just like see how those guys like, because we see all their stuff in college and it's like, holy smokes, like this guy's going to be a dude, and then they show up and you really get to see what they're made of when they're facing those types of players. So yeah.
I'm pretty interested what your kind of flow looked like this season. Like, I'm sure you provided a good amount of support to the big league team, and also it sounds like you were spent most of your time or a lot of time at the alternate site. What did that kind of look like this season? And maybe how do you think that differs from what the plan was or what you think it might be next season with a longer, more full, less COVID restricted season?
For sure. So I was pretty much I was posted up at the Westin Bonaventure in downtown LA. Our alternate site was at USC, and then Dodger Stadium is like 15 minutes from USC, basically. So most days would be basically get up at like 6:45, 7, get like some coffee or whatever, mob to the field, get there around 8-ish, 8:15.
USC or the
USC,
Stadium.
Shout out Tom House, RDRBI, NPA.
Yeah, hey, I was there too. There too. When I was like 15, I went and did a Tom House thing. It's crazy.
People forget,
really
man.
Weird to be back there. Really weird to be back there. I was like, damn, I've done knee throws into that net in the bullpen, bro.
Yeah. Did you tell everyone when they got on the mound, like, hey, Anthony Brady's thrown 86 on this mound?
No, I told them, hey, Rob Hill's thrown 76 on this mound.
Bro, I swear, I threw a 2 ounce on that mound like 103.
That's tight.
The light flight balls, man. The Tom House light flight ball bullpens.
Hey, you know how I use that mouthpiece still when I throw? Yeah, dude, I freaking got that from Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Like, not the same one. That'd be gross. That'd be 10 years old.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's crazy. It's so weird to think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically get to the field at like 8 something, 9 something. We'd have like prep, stretch, and then like individual stuff. So like that's when it'd be like everyone basically like do like plyos or whatever like their warm routine was, and then we'd have like usually some sort of individual team defense thing, individual or team defense, and then like pens, and then it'd be like a short gap of time, and then we'd have like an inter squad, anywhere from like 4 to 9 live innings basically. So that was like, so basically get to the field at like 8ish, let's say, and typically be done around 3:30, something like that. And then I'd go into the clubhouse, talk with like the other staff members that were there. Me and Donnie Alexander, shout out Donnie Alexander, one of our other pitching coordinators, absolute legend. We'd sit there and kind of chop it up, or if we did bad that day, we'd kind of just sit there and stare into the distance for a while, and then eventually one of us would say something to the other, and then we kind of figure it out. But it was that was invaluable for sure to spend that much time with somebody like with his experience. Like he's literally been in the game coaching for like almost 40 years.
Was he at the combine? Do you know, at the regional scouting series?
No, he wasn't.
San Bernardino. Okay.
No, he wasn't. But yeah, so that was great to be with him. But then after that, depending on if the team was in town or not. So that was like during the actual season. Summer camp is when I was going over to the stadium every single day, and then like during the season it was sometimes. But summer camp was like basically the same schedule at the alternate site. But then I'd go straight to the stadium, and they would get started at like 3:30 or 4ish, or sometimes earlier. And it would basically just be like the same thing over again, but just with the big leaguers that time.
Nice.
And a lot of the stuff they actually had me doing during summer camp was helping the position players like develop like throwing routines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was like there were like 2 things that were like really cool side effects that I didn't anticipate going into this year. One of them was definitely like how much work I did with position players. And the other was like doing a lot of stuff for the draft and like for like the trade deadlines. Like those 2 things were really cool. But
let's go. That's tight.
Yeah. So summer camp was a lot of the stuff with the position guys, just like basically like, you know how we were talking about like breaking down video and being like, oh, you need to like do this or whatever. It was literally that. It was like I'd film them taking some GBs, and then I'd be like, hey, like I'm Rob, like whatever, if I hadn't met him. And like luckily some of the position players had started throwing plyos in spring training, and then a bunch of them had started throwing them over the what's it called? Over the what am I talking about? Over the quarantine. Sorry. So like luckily there was like some buy-in there already. So then when I like approached the guys about it, it was like pretty like hit the ground running and like go and be like, oh, you know, you're having this issue with your arm's late or whatever, and they're like, oh, okay. And then being the elite athletes that they are, just like figure it out in 2 seconds. So,
yeah. And when you say
what would you track for position players? Velo or other stuff too?
So we did a couple of things where we track velo, like on ramp to kid, one kid specifically, like he had throwing issues. This was at the alternate side, but either way, like he had throwing issues. We like built him up like with like some light plyo stuff. He had done some in the past, but built him up and like had him do like run and guns, and it was like 76. Not full running guns, but just like shuffle throws, and then like had him do like 6 weeks of like a little bit more intensive stuff, and then he was like 84 or 85 at the end of that. So like that's like a pretty good one. But usually it would just be like you can just like see it on the field, like and I would get the report from the other coaches, be like, hey, so and so is throwing like missiles today, like good work or whatever, and I'd be like, and then I'd like go watch the game video or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, like that's way better, like text me, hey, good job, like. Or I'd just be with them and I'd be able to like watch them do it every day. So it kind of depended. I was like doing so much back and forth between the stadium and the alternate site. It was pretty wild summer.
Yeah, that's super fire. I think about that a lot. I mentioned that in the O-Chart podcast episode, that like I think position player throwing is like one of the lowest hanging fruits, especially at the elite level. Like
for sure,
because they're just like so. I mean, to be honest, they're so much more athletic than pitchers. And like if you can give them like drills or put the right like implement or constraint in their hands, I really think they can just like take off, get a feel for it, and make like really quick improvements. And just like also just think back to like playing days, like position players had just as much arm issues as like pitchers. They just didn't have time to like take care of them. They just like threw through them and were constantly like throwing on top of stress kind of a thing until it was like, okay, 2 weeks off, whatever. But I think like that's a huge low hanging fruit, position player throwing.
No, I do too. And it's something that like I think gets slept on a lot, that people kind of like dance around but don't really look straight at it, is just like the awareness of like an issue with someone's throwing, especially a position player. You know what I mean? Because like from what I've like learned, it's just like nobody teaches position players like how throwing kind of works, or even like has anything for them. So like that was a really funny unlock one day. Like I just showed a kid, a position player, a video of like I think it was like Tatis or something, like throwing a ball like a million. And I was like, hey, I want you to like look at his lower half, like see what he does with his front leg. And he's like, oh, he just like hits the ground and his knee doesn't like keep bending and it like stiffens up. And I'm like, like here's a video of you. And he's like, oh, it just like keeps going. And I'm like, like it's gonna be really hard for you to like generate a lot of velocity with your upper body if you aren't like stopping your lower half. And he's like, all right, let me try that. And then just like does it in the PRs. It's just like like just like basic principles of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of raw.
Yeah,
that's exciting. And then after the regular season, they had instructs in Arizona in person, right? Like before the world kind of started to shut down again. How did that kind of look like for you? Like, what did you guys do there, and how did you? Because I think I've heard that different organizations kind of approach it differently on who they invite to instructs, who goes, how they approach it, whatever. Can you? I mean, if you can't talk about that, that's chill. But like, if any insight on like who you invited, what you guys did there to like see how people performed or approach any development or whatever, that'd be tight.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think I can talk about like how we chose who to invite or whatever. But I can talk about instructs a little bit. It was a much more game heavy instructional league. Because we had just lost so many games, right? So we played, I think, 28 or 27 games in like 36 days or 35 days or something. So it was like we pretty much had a game every day, whether that be like at someone else's place or like at our place or whatever. And a lot of it was just like, I mean, centered around like, all right, like, okay, we want to work on like these specific things with like these guys. And then a lot of the dudes from the alternate site just like came over to like kind of continue their season. Because the 60-man like player pool alternate site guys are like our like priority dudes or whatever. So like those dudes just basically came back over to instructs, a lot of that. And so we did a lot of instruction on just like basic things, but then also got like more granular on like specific mechanical things or like pitch characteristic stuff or whatever. But it was just nice to have like more time and be with those dudes like every day, like give a few talks about stuff and instructs was honestly great because it was cool to be around like the hitting guys more and be able to kind of talk to them about like even like mechanical principles. Like me learning about swings is something that like I need to get significantly better at, of just like, all right, where can we like expose this guy based on like his path and like not even looking at the heat maps or anything like that. Like that's something I definitely need to get better at. So talking to those guys is pretty invaluable. But instructs was great. Honestly, it was really fun to just like be around everyone. Also, like see other pitching people, see other staff members, see other players. Because man, 81 straight at USC definitely became a grind there towards the end. Yeah.
Did you work with more young guys, like new signees and draftees, at the alternate site or in instructs?
I would say like the same three dudes basically, the same three pitchers that we signed. Right, I know we signed one guy in the fifth round too, but he wasn't there or at the alternate site. But those same three dudes were at instructs and the alternate site, so like kind of I guess equal. But I would say there were younger dudes at instructs because a lot of the guys who were older at the alternate site went into the bubble with the team in Texas.
Okay.
So like those guys were there doing like inner squads and stuff like that. So that was like that was pretty cool to get like reports from guys who had just like been able to go into the bubble and like throw against the big league team and stuff and like do pretty well. Like that was really cool. So there's a lot going on at that time.
How's the dissemination of information between like say R&D and pitching coordinators and coaches at the Dodgers? Especially like compared to say like a Driveline. Kind of curious for like we can talk about like a kind of apples to apples or apples to oranges.
Yeah. I would say it's a little bit more difficult, obviously, just strictly from like the sheer volume of like employees and like who is like involved in certain conversations or whatever. But like when it's like just as impactful when like the stuff does get shared. It's a lot more ad hoc, I would say, because it's tough to like have a place like Basecamp like we do at Driveline with like such a big org, and there's like so many moving parts and like so many things going on that like the R&D guys sometimes don't have like the biggest voice or like the place to put a bunch of their stuff or whatever. So like, but I just basically, that was one great thing about Instructs is we had Tyler Duncan, one of our performance science coordinators, give us a bunch of talks about like various things like mechanics or stuff that they've kind of been digging into, and like that was just for like me and like other coordinators and like some of our minor league front office staff, and like that was amazing. So then it's like kind of on us to then like help disseminate that information like to either the players or like the other coaches or whatever. But I definitely think like the feedback loop is something that we can get better at with the Dodgers for sure, and that I think like Driveline somewhat has the edge there, but I think a large part just because of like better use of some like software platforms as well as just like less employees,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is everybody pretty like receptive? I talked to you a little bit about it, how like more players are coming in, like more excited about some of the things that we do. Not specific to us, but just like the trend of baseball and technology as it's been. Is there like what percentage of people are still like not into that also? Like I assume that there's still quite a bit of that.
Like players specifically?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go with players.
Yeah, I would say like, so it's just like, it's super like context dependent, like I think one place where we can get into trouble and just like in general that I think people have a tough time like splitting in their head is like competition time versus like development time, Yeah. So it's like if you're talking to a player like and people have definitely like I've fallen victim to this in the past. It's just like if you're talking to a player after he had like a terrible outing about just like pitch characteristics or something, it's like you're missing the boat. Like that's not like sure, maybe the pitch characteristics like weren't ideal and like you could talk about that like the next day, but like if it was an execution issue or like a lack of like a competitive pitch or like whatever, like that isn't like that's other stuff like doesn't matter, So it's like it's picking the right guys, I think, and like I think everyone understands the value of it, but it's just like knowing how to message when things are like going awry or like when things are good or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys like will just look it up on their own too. Right. So like sometimes we don't even need to do anything, but I would say that like almost everyone understands the value, especially like the really good players. The guys who I can't even really honestly think of anyone who's like out on it necessarily. It's just more or less like picking the right time to talk about it. He's like, because like sometimes I'll just be like, hey, I'm looking at like the TrackMan right now. He's like, hey, I don't want to talk about that. Like, I want to work on like, my delivery today. And I'm just like, all right, sounds good. But it doesn't mean that like his next pen in like 5 days or whatever, he doesn't want to talk about the slider or doesn't want to talk about it after, but like in that moment. And I think that's something we just need to get better at in general, of just like picking and choosing like which session is for what and like what time of the year, like Instruct's a great time to just like throw everything at them. It's like, all right, we have like this off time coming up. So like, here's all the information and just like go do with it what you will. But yeah. Does that answer?
Outside of the technology part, like we preach a lot of Driveline about integrating all the different pieces of athletic performance and just training in general. And I know you have a lot of experience in the weight room when you were playing and still competing and still now as well. Are you involved at all in the strength and conditioning programming for the pitchers or even the position players, or how is that integrated with the Dodgers? Like, is that something that's pretty fluid?
Yeah, I would say like we're really good at integrating those things. I think Gabe Rebus, he's one of our pitching coordinators. He's like the performance pitching coordinator. He does an unbelievable job at like making sure that those two departments are like kind of on the same page. So like we obviously still need to get better, but that's everything, right? And it's just like choosing the right things for the right guys, and like talking to Brian Stoneberg, he's our minor league strength coordinator. Just like getting on the same page with him, like, hey, we want this guy to make these adjustments. Like, is there anything that you guys are doing that can like help us with that, or like stuff like that? Instructs was a great time for that. because I really like and I even do this at Driveline. Like I'll just go sit in the weight room and like watch the pitchers that like I know how they throw and stuff, like how they like work out. And I'm just like, oh, interesting. Like, and then I'll like go and ask a question to like one of the strength guys, be like, hey, I noticed like this with, you know, this guy, when like one of the crucial things like in his delivery that he does really well is like X. I noticed like when he does like a similar movement, like it doesn't necessarily like help with that or help like I can't see it. Like help me understand like why he's doing this sort of a movement, and then they can like paint the picture. But like, yeah, I'd say like that's what's great about. I love working for the Dodgers because like we can have those conversations, you know.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that hired me was a strength coach, you know, and so he kind of understood that like some of my role would be trying to bridge the gap between those two departments. And so, yeah, I really enjoy it though.
I'd say, Rob, be honest, dude. How many Dodgers you got doing handstands over there?
Oh, geez. One maybe. I don't know. I definitely got some staff probably into it. I definitely got quite a few staff members throwing plyos. That's for sure.
What do you got? How many players are doing dance rush now?
Ooh, dude, I don't know actually. I don't think any players are doing dance rush, but I did.
Surprises me.
Dude, I know. Well, freaking the arcades are closed. What do you expect?
Oh yeah. Well, I see you doing it on your laptop, dude.
Yeah,
just doing it on the turn.
Yeah. So that was freaking crazy. They had me do dance rush in front of the whole minor league like system, dude. Like all the coaches and stuff. That was wild. That was a good time.
Holy shit, that's tight. Okay, kind of a tough one because technically you work for both. So, what's one thing that the Dodgers do better than Driveline, and then what's one thing Driveline does better than the Dodgers? I have a theory about one thing that the Dodgers probably do way better than us.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a tough one because like they're not the same. You know what I mean? Like Driveline and the Dodgers are not the same thing because it's like Driveline you're working on like specific alterations and like enhancements of performance in like relatively like specific ways, you know, when it's like, all right, yeah, we do all that, but then it's like, oh, we actually have like a game. Like you have to go like win, like compete. And so like I think something that LA definitely like does a better job of is like understanding like the game, you know, like understanding like game planning and things like that, where it's like like, all right, like how like situational game stuff, you know, like things that just like aren't necessarily like a necessity to work at Driveline. You know, like you could just like if you have a pretty good understanding of like TrackMan, Rapsodo and like biomechanics, like you can definitely like do this job. Obviously, like not that isn't what it all takes, but like being a pitching person here and being a pitching person there is like different because it just involves more stuff. So I think that's one. Then I think and I've brought this up to people before, but I think like Driveline definitely or I would say Driveline probably does a better job at like integrating departments. Just because like, and again, it's a lot of it's just like we have a lot more personal. We have a lot of personal relationships. We have like smaller people. We have like core groups. And so it's just always been easier to like streamline those things. We've always understood like the necessity of those things. I mean, it's
that was only 4 minutes 20 seconds. Holy smokes, dude! That's a long 420 sesh.
But yeah, like I think like I think we're really good with the Dodgers like at integrating the systems. Yeah, but it's going to take more time just because we have more people and like more stuff going on. So I think like Driveline gets the edge there.
Interesting. I ask a lot of people this about like in response to the COVID season, how there was a alternate site and it seems like there was a little bit more just like bigger groups of players training together or playing against each other or whatever. Do you think that some of that integration might be improved just like in the future if this is something that like a structure that teams will use going forward? If they like, for example, if they cut minor league teams and they start just doing big group training for development groups instead of having 8 different teams and leagues.
Wow, that's a freaking really good question.
Some teams will probably do it better.
What'd you say?
I said some teams will probably do it better. Other teams won't.
Yeah, that's interesting. I honestly, I think like that makes a lot of sense in terms of like helping with that. Cause like, I know one thing like in instructs being with just like a large group of staff, but not that many players was super beneficial because it was like we could handle all the stuff we needed to with the players. We could make sure everything was dialed in there. We could pour everything into that, but then also have like really good conversations with members of like different parts of the staff to like make sure we were on the same page with stuff. So like that actually makes like quite a bit of sense. I think that could be something that's really good.
Because Driveline has an advantage there. Everybody being in the same building.
For sure.
People not playing on different fields or whatever. Yeah. And all the coaches and trainers are together. So
yeah.
I do. I mean,
Brady, what was your prediction on what I was going to say?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with the Driveline piece and the integration, but I actually think that there's a like a whole like department or area that we're completely missing that I'm assuming that the Dodgers do really well at, just in terms of like mental skills and performance psychology.
Oh, for sure.
Like, technically, I mean, at Driveline, we don't really have a performance psych or a mental skills person, and really we just have culture, which does do a lot, right? Like the right group of guys, making sure that like if you're not fit for our culture, you're not going to train here no matter what kind of money you pay, like you're out kind of a thing. So like the culture, the people that you train with, and the trainers are all kind of like building that like mental skills, performance psych piece, but that's still not like a dedicated mental skills coach. Like there is an aspect of that like I know that I've personally benefited from like greatly, and I know that just seeing things, I know that teams like actually have dedicated mental skills coaches on staff, and I think that's something that they definitely need to have, because in their world, like the game and performance is all that matters. And in ours, like the most you could mental skills up for is like a live at bat session. But I do think that's something that we don't do well. I mean, we just don't even have it, kind of a thing.
Yeah, we just don't have it. Yeah. No,
we had that.
That's a great point. I'll say that. Sorry, Caravan.
We had that mental health presentation, right?
Yeah.
Internally, I forget who did that. Was that Hatch or
Zach Jones?
Zach Jones, that's right.
Oh yeah, and didn't Jarmuth do some stuff with that too?
Yeah, he sends me the slide decks from his classes on some of that stuff.
Yeah,
but I would definitely, that's a great point. And like I almost don't even like think about that often, because those guys, AJ and Leo are their names, who do a lot of the mental skills stuff for us. They're like literally always in like the office, like talking with us and like with the guys, or like. That was a big thing at Instructs too. We had like stations with them, and like them doing a bunch of stuff. Like those guys are really good shit. Really good shit. So.
It kind of makes sense in like some. It sort of makes sense to me that like we don't have it, right? Because like training at Driveline, you're going to be very successful, right? Like you're going to win a lot. You're going to PR a lot. You're going to get better. So it's like it's not really a necessity. And then on the flip side, like in baseball, I mean, baseball is going to fuck you up, you know? Like baseball is going to come in and is going to kick you down, and it is just going to keep kicking you, kind of a thing. And like not having some type of like mental skills coach or performance psych person that you can go to in that environment. I mean, teams just need that. Whereas like Driveline, you know, like, I mean, there have still been times though in my training at Driveline, like I think back to 2016, there was a time where like, there was like a 4-week stint where like, I mean, even Matt Daniels said something. He's like, "Are you good? Like every time I see you, I think you're just gonna like kill me," kind of a thing, you know. And like that is like something where the culture and everything kind of like drives you out of it, and you eventually get a win. But I mean, I've had so many times in my playing career where it's like, I just fucking hate this game, you know.
Yeah, for sure. No, dude, I actually remember Matty D asking me the same stuff, and he like put me on the Omega wave to like check my recovery or whatever.
That's awesome.
Because he was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, I'm like working, and like my girlfriend or whatever, and like I'm like doing all this, and he's like, "Oh, good job, Omega wave."
Yeah, that's sick.
No, that's a super good point.
Good data.
I thought you put you on. I thought you put you on the THC recovery program, dude.
Dude, that is like all time one of my favorite memories. Just like finding that, finding its diet program. Was that me and you, Lindley? I'm pretty sure.
You showed it to me. You found it. I didn't find it. But.
Dude, I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was like, I want to say I was looking for. It was like when I was an intern. I was like looking for something that like Matt had put in there. Like I don't even remember what it was. Like maybe it was like somebody's program back when Google Sheets was a thing.
Google Sheets.
And then it's just like Matt Daniels diet, and I'm like, oh god.
Let's go.
Do you guys? Would you guys feel comfortable? I mean, this is mostly on Brady, and I don't know if he watches this. There's a pretty good chance he's going to get back to him. Do you want to fess up to one of the better pranks you played on Matty D or nah?
Are you talking to me right now? Oh wow.
Okay, that's a no. Is that yet? Okay. All right. Next
I had nothing to do. I had nothing to do with the pranks. To be clear, it was all Joe. It was all Joe.
That sounds about right. That honestly sounds right.
It was all Joe.
I believe that.
There was a time when Driveline was very office-esque in terms of just some hijinks pulled back and forth on people.
I don't know anything about that.
Maybe some wiffle balls, some chewed up baseballs ended up in the pitch design ball bucket. I had nothing to do with that.
In the perfect baseball bucket.
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
You would never be involved with anything like that.
No, I understand the value of pitch design. You need a nice ball to throw, and frankly, whoever was putting in balls that didn't have seams or just completely scuffed up, just disgusting behavior.
They should be reprimanded for that.
I agree,
Pranks, dude.
I agree.
Never touch the stuff.
I agree.
No, me? No.
It's terrible.
Rob, I got one more serious question for you, and then a fun one. But my serious one is, what kind of different techs do you rely on? What kind of different technologies do you rely on? Dodgers versus Driveline, and are there any technologies that, do you kind of want to give your thoughts on pitching technology, since it seems from a outsider point of view that every couple months new ones sprout up. Someone just coming in the game might have no idea of Rapsodo, TrackMan, Pitch Logic, DK, YakerTech, all this stuff. Do you kind of have a broad 30,000 foot view on using technology in baseball for pitch design, for general monitoring? What are your kind of thoughts there?
Yeah. I think so. We switched over to TrackMan Mobile this year. So that was definitely a big change for me, because being at Driveline, for however long I was doing all those PDs and everything, it was just strictly Rapsodo, strictly Rapsodo. We would use the TrackMan Mobile very sparingly in live ABs and stuff. But I understood TrackMan and stuff, so it wasn't that hard of a transition. So I think really what it'll look like is just infinite TrackMan mobiles in practice setting, and then with Hawkeye and the integration there, that'll be a whole nother can of worms that I haven't even really opened up yet. But that's gonna be something that I think is gonna change the perspective for a lot of people on a lot of stuff. And then I think the widespread use of biomechanics is gonna be another big one. And just from understanding the limitations, and that's something Brady I know always talks about, is okay, what can't this do? More so than what can it do? And that's kind of somewhere where my head's been lately, especially with the biomechanics stuff. So markered versus markerless, all those sorts of things. But another thing I was going to say, in terms of I don't know, I guess websites or whatever that I use, I just use True Media, and we have our own internal thing that I use, whereas I used to just use Track and Savant and Fangraphs and those sorts of things. I still kind of use Fangraphs a little bit for certain things, but mostly just True Media and 42 is what our thing is called. So
yeah. It's a good point about the biomechanics piece. I worry about that a lot. Maybe it's just because I'm too much of a pessimist in that regard. But with Hawkeye and the popularization of baseball biomechanics, I think that a lot of things just have the potential to get misconstrued, taken out of context, or just taken for something that they're not, and then do more harm than good kind of a thing. It's just
sure.
Too much potential for that, the biomechanics says it's this, and I think every team just needs someone on staff to be well,
yeah,
maybe not, hold on.
I think that's one of the big benefits though, and I was thinking about this. Me and Eric talk about this kind of stuff all the time, just being around here and learning about mechanics pre-mocap. I think was super valuable.
Yeah.
Because it's here's what kind of good mechanics look like. And then I really remember when you guys gave your first full signal presentation about pelvis open, COG, lead leg, and all that. I had been on that train privately for the previous 3 months or 4 months or whatever. And I didn't even know you guys were looking at it. And then you came out with this thing that confirmed a bunch of the stuff that I thought. And I was just what the hell? That's freaking insane. So I think that's going to be a really important thing. And that's somewhere where I think people like to say like, oh, like, older dudes or whatever, like more experienced like coaches and like older people like aren't like really great with the tech and stuff. But it's like, yeah, but they can tell you, maybe they don't know the ins and outs of OptiTrack, right? But like they can tell you when a dude's delivery is like locked in or like not locked in, like regardless of what's in there. So it's like comparing like all the perspectives, I think is something that's really valuable as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are the funnest investigations for myself. Like finding, like there are findings that coaches have been saying for years or whatever. Good coaches 100%. Like already know, and it's just like kind of backing that up or providing a number for it.
Yeah, that was one of the fun things about being at the alternate site with Donnie too. Was just like he would hit me with and I think this is one of the questions you asked me before in here, but like how many people like talk about Driveline or like ask about like Driveline stuff? It's like everyone. It's like, what has Driveline got on X? And it's like, okay, I can tell you what I have on X, and like I can try to get some more information for you. Yeah. But like, yeah, that was like one of the best things about being there with him was just like, and he said this, it was just like I could help put words to like words and like facts to like his thoughts, and like that was like a really cool thing. And then like he would say stuff sometimes, and I'd just be like Master Yoda. I'm just like, okay, like. Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. No, I really think that like it would be incredibly valuable for Driveline if like, I don't know, if we could like interview or just like be a fly on the wall in like big league dugouts for a bit to just overhear things, because I think that we get removed from that piece a bit, and there's so much that the players see and experience, and maybe they don't understand how to quantify it, or they don't understand a technology that could quantify it, but it's happening and they experience it. Like a good comparison is like, I think I mentioned this back in like one of the EEG blogs, like, former teammate of mine, Jack Pauly, mentioned that like when a pitcher calls time and flips the ball into the umpire to change out the balls, he like turns away in the batter's box, because he thinks that it's going to like mess with his timing, or he calls it like slowing down his eyes. And I've heard that from like tons of other players. Like I'm pretty sure I saw an interview where like some big leaguer said that. I also saw that like apparently like pitchers back in the day used to intentionally do it. Like when they were going to follow up with a fastball, they would like call time, loft the ball into the umpire to slow down the pitcher's eyes, right? And that just got me really thinking about like, perception and hitting stuff. And obviously like we're learning more and we're thinking about it more, but just like a little tidbit like that from a player who has that like experience and background, I think it'd be so valuable to like drive research into like, oh damn, like there might be something here that, like me, Caravan, and Lindley just don't see because we haven't been in a dugout or played the game, It's also one of the things that I do think is like the most valuable about continuing to play with the studs. Just like being in a dugout, experiencing the game, and every now and then you just hear something that's like, oh shit, yeah, you're like, he doesn't understand how to quantify it, but there's something to that like anecdote that guy just said, right?
Yeah,
dude, that's me specifically, bro. I need to figure out how to split deal with the Dodgers, where I spend 2 hours per week with them, but just in the big league dugout, just
chewing seeds and shooting the shit. Yeah.
No, like that's super real, dude. Like I think about it as like almost like the fish and water type thing. You don't understand it because like you're just like the players don't necessarily understand like how much valuable information like they hold, because they just like don't fully get. Like, they're just living it. Like it's not a research project. Like their career is their career, and like that's just what they do. And yeah, like you said, if you could just like sit there and like listen,
exactly, like,
so much valuable info.
Yeah. Just like conversations with people. Like I even remember like a conversation with Casey Weathers once. I think when we were at like a tour stop, we were at dinner, and he phrased something about mechanics that just like in that moment made me think like, oh shit, there's definitely something to that. Like it was just like a minor anecdote, but the way that he just described that like interaction mechanically, like I can investigate this and see if like, that actually like quantifiably gets backed up, kind of a thing. Just like pieces like that I think are so valuable that we miss out on in R&D sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean that's like part of the reason why, like that thing I put in the research thing the other night about like leg lifts. It's like, that's something I had literally like very vaguely thought of in the past, and then it's just like this big thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I saw some like pretty absurd results from it, like on like multiple occasions. It's like, all right, what the heck is this?
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
what's going on here? But yeah.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, Rob, one question I kind of asked you about this during the season, dude, or not during the season, but when you're with the Dodgers. I want to hear your wing eating competition strategy, dude. I want you to set the scene on that because your boy's got a little bit of wing eating competition experience as well, and I want to see what you got.
All right.
So,
all right. What were the time constraints on yours?
So mine was different, dude. I did this thing in college, like for philanthropy, where we did like three people. Each person pounds 10 wings. They're spicy, but they're not super spicy. And if you can handle spice and can eat fast, you like don't even really notice it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just relay. So you just go into the first person finishes, boned, obviously. And it's like you know a group like a heat going all at once. And dude, we finished second out of we finished first in our dash, second overall, and your boy was the anchor. And I put up a pretty damn good time, dude. I forget what it was exactly. I think it was somewhere between like a minute 30. But it was just straight speed, dude. I was just devouring it. So, but I have no idea how I would do in your kind of competition, like just. Because yours was volume in an hour, right? Or what was it?
Yeah. So no, ours was, I think it was 40. Yeah, it was 45 minutes. So it was 45 minutes, just as many wings as you can, basically.
And it's like Kenley Jansen's charity or something.
Yeah. I think like Kenley, Justin Turner, and like Mookie like fronted it, like kind of like put it all together or whatever. And I actually that's like another funny part is like I didn't even sign myself up for this. Like. I'm standing in the back of the Major League clubhouse on like the 4th day of spring training or something. And like someone goes up, like I'm like, you know, just trying to like kind of do my thing, like not really like make a big deal about whatever. But and like the guy who's running the whole thing, Possum, he's one of the physical therapists or massage therapists for the big league team. He's like talking about it or whatever, like just make sure you sign up, like it'll be on the door or whatever. And then like Joe Kelly just yells like, Rob Hill, he's doing the winging contest. And I was like, what? All right. And so like that's how I got signed up.
Let's go.
But yeah, that was pretty ridiculous. But yeah, so so we got to choose our flavor. And you could like switch flavors up in the middle of the thing, which was like pretty cool. So apparently there was also, I didn't know about this till after, but there was like side bets going, like there was a bracket of like who would win or whatever. And I found out that no one put me on their bracket except one person.
Oh, wow.
And he had me finishing third, I think.
Wow.
How many people total?
How many people were in the wing eating contest? I think 30, dude, like 20 or 30. Like there was a lot of people. Wow. But he put me like third, and it was because at like 5 a.m. workouts or whatever, he had just like seen me like be a psycho. That's literally what he said. He's like, I saw that you're like a little bit crazy.
Yeah, that guy's crazy.
Yeah, he's like, so I put my money on you, like, so I bet on you in the bracket or whatever, and I was like, that's tight. But so my strategy was 2 wings every minute and try to just go as long as I can. So 2 wings a minute for 45 minutes. It put me in 90 wings. The previous record was like 55, I think. So I was like, okay, if I can just eat 2 a minute for 20 minutes,
yeah,
like I'll be like in a pretty good spot. If I do it for like 30, like I'll be in like a really good spot.
Yeah.
If I do it for the whole 45, like I'll just smash it, right?
Right.
So I kept that pace. Oh, sorry. I chose Parmesan garlic as my wing.
Smart.
Oh, dude, that's interesting. I feel like that dries out your mouth. It's like too savory.
Okay,
it's like too savory almost.
That was what everyone else thought. That's why they kept me off the bracket. But what they didn't understand was that your boy can crush dairy, bro. Crush dairy. I can eat like 20 slices of cheese, like nothing, like no big deal. And so like
Lindley.
The Parmesan, right? yeah, right, Lindley. So like everyone's like, no, dude, it's gonna be way too much or whatever. But I'm like housing these things. I'm like going. I get to like 24 minutes. I think I made it at that pace. And then I like couldn't do that pace anymore. Like it was just like too tough. It was just like way too many wings. So I ended up getting to 69 wings at when the timer went off.
Damn.
I think the last 20 of them I ate were mild.
Oh yeah.
These are Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, this is at B-Dubs. And then so I literally tied with one of our strength coaches. So it was like a 15 wing PR from the previous like year or whatever.
Damn.
I tied with one of our strength coaches, and then everyone's like, all right, like, what are we going to have him do? And someone was like, oh, just have him eat like more wings for like a minute. Like, who can eat more wings in a minute? And I was like, let's go, dude. Like, I'm down. Like, I was zoned in, bro. Like, I had like my headphones in. Like, I was crushing just I Remember by Deadmau5 like over and over again. Like, dude, I was locked in. Like, there were a couple times where like Kenley like put a trash can in front of my face because it looked like I was gonna puke, and I was like, get that shit. So I'm like locked in, and I'm like, all right, cool, more wings. Like, let's do it. And then someone, I think JT or someone's just like, let's have him drink a beer. And I was like, oh no. And Kenley's like, yeah, let's have him do a beer. And he goes inside and brings out 2 pitchers of beer.
Oh, no.
Like, dude, no way. Like, I can't do this. And then so, like, we start or whatever. I, like, pour half of it on my chest. I don't drink beer. Like, Noah, the dude, apparently is, like, the best bar game player of, like, all time. Apparently he just destroys me. But then he just, like, he immediately throws up. Like, immediately yaks all over.
Oh, let's go.
And then so they're like, Rob, if you can, like, drink the beer and not throw up, like, you win or whatever. And I'm just like, I can't. I'm done. Like, I was done. And then so then I threw up all over the sidewalk. Still got second place, but like ate the same amount of wings. So I still think it's BS. But whatever.
Let's go.
Yeah, that was a pretty like insane.
That's crazy.
Insane sequence of events.
God damn.
What do you got on bangs per day with the Dodgers versus Driveline?
Ooh, dude. So I think like the let's break it, instead of bangs, just like caffeine consumption.
Okay.
I think it might be relatively even, bro. Like those dudes just crush coffee like 24/7. It's like 5 cups in the morning is just like, yeah, whatever. You know, dude, I can't like. People think I drink a lot of caffeine. It's just like, dude, I have like 1 cup of coffee in the morning and then like a bang like at some point. You know, like I see like Rachel Luba's Instagram story. She's like, yeah, I had 5 cups of espresso.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? Like, you're 110 pounds. Like, how do you drink that many coffees? Like,
what about kendama? I saw you were crushing that during shutdown, especially. Were you able to keep that up throughout the season?
Whoa. So I actually got a few people bought in on kendama in spring training, dude. In that limited window of the first spring training, I got a couple people hooked, bro. I literally bought one for a dude just because he kept playing with mine every day, and so he just used mine. And then I got more people. Dude, I got like all of our pitching guys doing it at Instructs.
Let's go.
Which is hilarious. Like we bought because like I had 2, and we were just like sitting there one night like doing kendama, and I was teaching one of our other guys how to shuffle at the same time. It was just like zoom out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole like Rob Hill experience right now.
Yeah.
Like I got like Donnie playing kendama, and I got like Gabe over here like learning how to do the shuffle. I'm just like, this is great.
Everyone's wearing wolf t-shirts and
yeah, exactly. Everyone's got bleached hair and throwing plows.
Oh yeah, give the viewers a treat, dude. Let's see the hair now.
Oh yeah, this is how we'll end it. There you go.
Let's go.
Oh,
There you go.
The first
Rob,
time
I'm gonna be there with you soon. I'm gonna cut my hair and dye it something, but I haven't decided.
Is yours, let me see yours, Kara. Yours is still super long, right?
Oh, this is a real Christmas present for the listeners.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the viewers.
So long.
Dude, oh my gosh. How long has it been?
Hard to tell, dude, because I'd fuck around and cut like parts of it and stuff. So I don't even know how long it's been since I've cut it fully.
That is absurd.
Might be like 2 years.
That's crazy. Rob, the first time I saw your hair since you've been back, it was in the bun. And I was like,
dude,
what? Am I seeing that right? Like, what is that on top of his head?
Yeah, dude, I just like can't. I just like don't know what to do with it. You know, like at Instructs, like I was just putting it straight up, like just literally like this.
Yeah.
And then it got too long, and I was like, that looks terrible. And then I put it in the bun. I was like, that still looks terrible, but like we're just gonna go with it. Like,
That's right.
There's not really much I can do there.
Rally hair.
Yeah, dude. Shit.
Thanks for coming on, Rob.
Dude, thank you guys. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's been
Appreciate the time.
pleasure. It was good too, because like I haven't been able to talk to you guys that much too. So this is honestly just like
it's good catching up.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say the 30 minutes before this podcast started, that would actually be something we'd put on Patreon and or OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's our.
I have no comment to that. I have no comment.
God damn.
All right, cool.
Thanks for coming on, Rob. Thanks for coming on.
Guys.
I'll see you in person soon.
Everyone,
Peace.
thanks for listening. This will be live on Monday the 28th, I believe. And then we'll be back after New Year's. Is that right?
Live, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back live after New Year's, right before Lindley and I make a little trip. We can actually talk about that.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah, buddy.
Going to Texas.
Yeah,
All right.
partner.
See you, everyone.
Peace.